Welcome to the PharmaSource podcast. I'm joined on the podcast today by Dr. Carmen Álvarez PhD, who is Managing Director of Tetraneuron, a pioneering Spanish biotech developing novel gene therapies for neurodegenerative diseases, with their lead Alzheimer's therapy approaching clinical trials. With nearly 2 decades in biotech leadership, Maria Carmen founded Valencia University's first biotech spin-off and has navigated both entrepreneurial and corporate environments with expertise spanning innovation management, business development, and funding. With experience going from seed to Series A, making her uniquely positioned to share interesting insights on how to scale biotech innovations from concept to patient impact. Maria Carmen, welcome to the podcast today. Nice to have you.
Hi, thank you very much. I'm very happy to be here today with you.
Likewise. It'd be great if we could just talk a bit about your personal journey to begin with. Where did it all start for you, and why did you decide to devote so much of your time to building this company?
Yeah, everything started at the end of my studies in the University of Valencia, and I have the great pleasure to meet there a professor who introduced me in this ecosystem around biotech, and we decided to all together to develop and to establish the first biotech of the University of Valencia. And well, after that, I realized that it's very, it's very interesting to try to push things from labs to patients, and this is something very unique from the entrepreneurial in the biotech ecosystem, and I really like it. It's very you need very particular skills, since everything can change from one day to another. Your company can be you are almost dead once a week. Your business is in danger once a week. But at the end, if you understand how to move around this, the results are great.
How has that been for you in terms of your approach to leadership, from the lab to a startup and then a more established organization? How have you had to adapt personally?
You know that I think that in my case, I try to do it as smooth as possible. When you start a biotech company, or at least in my case, everything depends on a great and small team of very, very intelligent people coming from a lab, being studying and being the best knowing a particular topic, and they have been always working as a lab, and the movement from a lab to a company should be very smooth, easy, and with applying the common sense. Because if you try to persuade these people to become in a business environment in a very fast way and strong way, I think that the results are worst. That if you really help all the team together to move very slowly, step by step, to a more mature business.
On that journey, as you scale up, did you identify there are particular skills and capability gaps as you become a more established business? I mean, areas like CMC perhaps, or procurement, or those sorts of more business focused.
Yeah, that's it. From the very beginning, you need to know that you are not able to do everything by yourself, and you have to navigate very, very carefully between your budgets and your budget and the need of the company. And in that sense, in my case and in Tetraneuron's case, well, in Tetraneuron, I arrived to the company. I joined the company when the company had some years. Working. So when I entered in the company, we realized that we needed a strong knowledge around the CMC area. CMC is something that we can talk about it for many, many hours, because it's a specific topic in gene therapies development, and also in business. But business is, I think that when you are managing an early step development, business is important for sure. It's really very important to think about the future, but I think it's also very urgent to strong the roots of the company, the scientific foundation of the company should be really very strong,
Mm.
and that will help you to scale up very easily. Yeah, if you start growing the business with not strong scientific foundations,
Mhm.
then in the future it's going to be complicated.
It'd be good to understand a bit more about Tetraneuron and the gene therapy approach that you've developed to Alzheimer's. What is it that makes it unique? It was a really challenging field.
Yeah, that's the thing. We are developing, we are doing the most. We always say that we have the combo of the risky. We are like a group of crazy people trying to help patients
Mm.
because we are working with a very, very, very difficult disease. Alzheimer's it reminds being a very an unknown disease because we don't know which are the origins of the disease, and we know part of the full picture around the pathogenical aspects of the disease. And we are
Mm.
also trying to develop a gene therapy, which is per se a very difficult drug to be developed. So the particularity of our drug and why we expect to have a real impact in the field is because the target that we are working with. We are working with a master gene that it's a regulator of the neuronal homeostasis. Let's say that it's one of the responsible of the good working of the neuron. And most of the strategies which involve master gene regulation, at the end, they have toxicological issues because you are working with a master gene who is involved in many, 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 many relations with a full group of other genes and in many cascades of downstream developments. Uh, and it's very easy to have a toxicity in when
Mm.
you try to express this master gene or to regulate this master gene in vivo in animals. We have never seen this in our case, so that let us think that we are trying to regulate a master gene in a non-toxicological way,
Mm.
and that's unique in the field.
Interesting. Where did that come from? Did that come from Valencia originally?
No, no, no. Originally came from Spain for sure,
Mm.
but from Madrid. So everything came. This is the result of more than 20 years of research from um, a doctor, from a researcher, Jose Maria Frade. He's a great researcher working during all his career in the Cajal Institute, belonging to the National Research Council. And this is the typical transfer process
Hmm.
that great technology coming from a research institute at the end jump to a private hands who are the responsible to move forward to translate this result from the bench to the patients if
Great, great.
we are succeed.
Great. In your pipeline, it's not just the Alzheimer's 101. You've got others which are on the way. So, the Parkinson, aging, glaucoma, and another Alzheimer's. Is that applying the same approach, the same technologies to those different conditions?
Yeah, yeah, that is because, well, the target that we are working with, E2F4, as I previously mentioned, is a master gene related with many, many, many pathways. And we have seen in different animal models, not only in Alzheimer's, that we are able to prevent the neuronal death. And neuronal death is a process that happens not only in Alzheimer's, also in other neurological diseases like Parkinson,
Mm.
and that make us think about testing our gene therapy in other animal models, and
Mhm.
we have great results in all of them.
When it comes to gene therapy, it's quite a difficult environment at the moment, certainly in terms of funding and investment. How have you found it? Because, over the last few years, it's gone from being a very positive space, a lot of buzz and excitement around it, to now, generally, it feels like it's a tougher trading environment. What's your experience been of that?
Yeah, the reality is that for gene therapies, the landscape is particularly difficult because all the manufacturing process it's very expensive
Mm,
comparing with a small molecule. So you need to be well funded, and also the risk that the investors perceive around gene therapy is higher comparing the failure of in the manufacturing process or so on. It's higher comparing other traditional approaches. So
mm,
in our case, we have been always, the company has done a great job attracting private funds. So we have been always invested by private investors, mostly not related with the field, and also with public non-dilutive funds.
as part of that journey, as you're developing your therapies and progressing them through the pipeline, what's the experience been of moving from a preclinical stage up to IND? Have there been any surprises there for you? Any learnings of taking the company on that next stage?
Yeah, well, I think that our main, as a team and as a company, our main, the lesson that we have already learned is that demonstrating efficacy is part of the process, but it's not the whole process. For instance, when you are developing gene therapy and you are seeing a very great results in a research in your research lab, in maybe in vivo, in a mice, in your mice model, or
Mm,
maybe in vitro, you think that everything has been gone. It's like, wow, I am able to cure Alzheimer's, at least in my mice. But then, when we try to humanize your drug, a new adventure starts because
mm,
the CMC process, all the scale-up process around a gene therapy, it's very difficult. In my opinion, it's as difficult as demonstrating efficacy.
right.
The process from starting to manufacturing a gene therapy in microliters to in milliliters or to liters, it's a big jump. And
Mm,
every scale from 2 liters to 10 liters, from 10 liters to 15 liters, every step, it's a great adventure because you never know what's gonna happen with your product.
mm, mm.
Yeah, the CDMOs, they try to be robust, but they never guarantee the result of the next step. So you have to navigate in this instability.
That's interesting. How are you doing that? Because presumably, you're not just doing anything in house. It'd be interesting to understand how you've worked with CROs and CDMOs, as you mentioned. How does that
Yeah,
work?
yeah, yeah. Well, first of all, you need to take your time in select the good CRO for you. In our case, as a CDMO, we choose a CDMO here in Spain with a great experience in the gene therapy. They have been one of the pioneers in all the manufacturing in the manufacturing of these AAVs, and you need to trust them because
Mm,
we can't have in-house a specific expert in every area of the process. For sure, we work with consultants. We have an army of consultants to help us in the different steps. But the relationship that you have with your provider, it needs to be strong, and you need to trust your partner in that
mm.
sense.
I guess one area where gene therapy is so different to, well, certainly to small molecules, is that needing to have access to the end patient as well,
Yeah.
relationships with hospitals and clinics. How does that all fit together? Because it's quite a complex ecosystem you must be
Yeah,
managing.
yeah. And imagine that in our case is even harder because we are talking about a prevalent disease.
Mm,
So normally gene therapies they have been developed in as a first step for rare diseases, for pediatric rare diseases, and you can understand that the family with this unmet need should be more open to try this gene therapy in the patient. In our case, we are also facing or we are also dealing with patients that they have nothing in for this disease. We are uh, uh, we are trying to solve the Alzheimer's disease in patients that are not in early stages, that are
mm,
in a more advanced stages of the disease, and no one is taking care of these patients. There
mm,
is no big pharma uh, trying to solve the life of these patients because big pharma they are more focused in early stages patients. So I think that if the patients will adopt this gene therapy because we can really make an impact of them. Yeah.
mm. Um, what talking about big pharma, how do you what advice would you have on how to work with big pharma? I mean, when I met you at German biotechnology days,
Yeah.
that's you're part of a really interesting panel where you were talking about that. What were your takeaways from that about and advice for other biotechs for how to make that relationship work well?
Yeah. Well, during that panel, that as you mentioned, it was very interesting because from one side we were all agreed, the big pharma and the small biotechs, that it's really very interesting to talk with this pharma as early as possible to understand which are the needs of this big pharma, which kind of data they want to see in your approach. But the reality is that if you are in this very early stage, it's very difficult to talk with the right people coming from the big pharma. And I can understand that people working in a big pharma, yeah, taking the time to listen and taking the time to try to understand an approach that it's in a very early stage, it maybe can sound useless for them. So it's not a fluent, no. The situation is difficult because the thing is that the sooner the better, but then it's very difficult to approach them in a when you are in a very early step.
Mm,
So yeah, I think that there is no a magical receipt, and at least we don't have it. And the thing is that you need to have a good approach, an approach that you know that sooner or later they are going to wanna listen it and try to knock their doors as much as possible.
yeah, yeah. It's a
Yeah, it's
it's
a kind of marathon
it is,
relationship.
isn't it? Yeah. It's a real long game. Um,
Yeah,
I mean, how do you handle that as a leader? And I guess not just talking about the big pharma piece, but when it takes so many years for a scientific discovery. I mean, you mentioned 30 years or so of research has gone into
yeah.
this. How do you I guess measure the impact and the progress and keep yourself going?
Yeah. Well, I think that first of all, you need to manage the expectations of our investors. That's
Hmm.
a key element because, as you mentioned, it's a very long way and it takes time. Sometimes there are delays, and every single delay, it's a year of work.
Mm,
And you need to manage the expectations of our investors. In our case, there were people there are people that they are not used to invest in the biotech, and we had gone the board, the Tetraneuros board. They had done a great work sharing the appropriate messages between the investors and managing the expectation from the investors. That's one important part. And then, well, I don't need to motivate myself because I know that at the end, every work that you are doing daily has an impact, or will have an impact in patients. Maybe it's in 10 years, maybe it's in
Mm-hmm.
20 years, maybe at the end you never reach to test your treat in patients because something happens in between. But at the end, the new information that you have discovered on the disease, maybe can we help others to find the final cure for Alzheimer's. So it's
Mm-hmm.
never useless.
Incredible goal to have, isn't it? I think one of the things I find really interesting about people like yourself working in this particular space is so many people are touched by Alzheimer's in their families that I'm sure most people would have an experience of it in one way or another.
Yeah, yeah. And this is something that it has been for me, this is something that I learned during my career because we started the conversation saying that I was the co-founder of the first biotech spin-off of the University of Valencia. This
Mm,
biotech was the mission of this biotech was to discover new drugs around a rare disease called myotonic dystrophy, and we failed after 10 years of development in late preclinical stages. We failed because we identified that the small molecules, the family of small molecules that we were developing, had problems
mm,
for scale up. And at the end, the company closed, and I felt very, very, very bad, like a personal. I was like a personal loser, and I feel really like, oh, my career is gone. I am a fake person.
mm,
I'm like kind of loser. And at the end, with time, I realized that the thing it was not about me. It was about patients. And all during these 10 years, we really, we keep continue researching and adding new data around the disease,
mm,
around the therapeutical strategy, and now there are other companies that are using this development, this new the new information that we're rising up to develop real drugs that are currently in clinical trials. Now they are kids with myotonic dystrophy that are enrolled in clinical trials, and I said, well, maybe I failed as an entrepreneur. Maybe my business failed, but I really did something for the patients. And that's what really matters, not if
yeah.
I am a loser or a winner in terms of entrepreneurship. It took me at least 10 years to arrive to this moment. So this is something that I would like to share with other people.
Mm.
Like in my case, they are developing great biotech companies, and in a moment, maybe they're in the clinical trial in the phase 1 or in the phase 2, something happened, the data are not robust enough, and they stop the program.
Mm.
Yeah, it's not about you, it's not about what you do it's not about as an entrepreneur, it's not what about you, how do you manage the business. It's about patience, and it's about new data that you share with the scientific community that can help others to,
What an interesting perspective.
yeah.
I'm not surprised it took you 10 years
Yeah,
to come to that, but it's amazing, really, isn't it? Think about how whether a biotech succeeds or fails, it's still contributing to the greater good, that amassing that scientific knowledge.
yeah, that's it.
Looking forward, one final question. How do you see the landscape for gene therapy evolving in the years to come? Do you see it continuing in the same way it is now or splintering down different directions? What does the future look like for gene therapy, in your opinion?
Yeah. Well, it's not me who is telling this because I attended a Deloitte conference in Rome some weeks ago, discussing there was a huge group of consultancy experts discussing about the future of the
Mm.
landscape of the gene therapies, and it's true that cell therapies they have a clearer development pathway. For gene therapies. Now they are uncertainties around the manufacturing. For sure, the manufacturing process should be easier and
Mm.
cheaper. And now there are companies like Tetraneuron that are trying to approach gene therapy for common diseases that are working outside the rare diseases field. And that opens a new landscape because if we can combine all the knowledge that we have around gene therapies with good technologies in manufacturing, making the prices uh, lower and making these therapies more accessible for patients, that could be game changing, but that needs not only the commitment of the therapy sponsors, only
Mm.
the commitment from the CDMOs, the big pharmas. So it's a common work. It's we need the working all together.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. Still a lot of challenges to solve, aren't there?
A
On the way.
lot, a lot. And you know that in pharma, like in other business, everything comes from waves.
Mm.
So sometimes there is a wave, and gene therapies are are very the hotspot for investors, pharma, and so on. And then the wave gets smooth, but
Hmm.
maybe 5 years later or 2 years, a couple of years later, the wave starts again. So you never know.
Maria Carmen, thank you for joining us on the podcast. Really fascinating insights and hear your experience. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for letting all the Tetraneuron team to share what we are doing, what's our mission, and how can we help patients.
For more external manufacturing insights, head to cdmolive.com and download our 50-page summary of the event. Make sure to book your ticket for CDMO Live 2026, taking place the 27th to 28th of May at the World Trade Center, Rotterdam. We look forward to seeing you there.